Titanic, 1997, captured hearts around the world with its sweeping romance and unforgettable tragedy. But for some of the actors who brought the story to life, real-life heartbreak followed. While the film remains a cinematic masterpiece, several members of its talented cast have sadly passed away, some under tragic and unexpected circumstances. In this video, we look back at the stars who are no longer with us, honoring their contributions and uncovering the emotional and sometimes mysterious stories behind their deaths. Join us as we revisit the faces behind the ship of dreams and the sorrow that came after the credits rolled. Gloria Stewart was born on July 4, 1910, in Santa Monica, California, and portrayed Old Rose Dawson Calvert in Titanic, 1997, at the remarkable age of 87. Her character served as the emotional linchpin of the film, a wise, reflective survivor whose haunting recollections brought depth and poignancy to the epic love story. Old Rose's resilience and enduring spirit capture the hearts of millions, symbolizing the weight of memory and lost love. Yet Gloria's early life was far from idyllic. Born into a family struggling with financial instability during the Great Depression, she endured the shame of poverty and the sting of social snobbery. As a child, Gloria masked her insecurities with charm and a rebellious streak, once famously kicking a strict teacher, a rare glimpse into the fierceness beneath her refined surface. Her early Hollywood career was a roller coaster. Despite beauty and talent, she faced frequent typecasting and was sidelined as newer stars emerged, leading to bouts of bitterness and self-doubt. Though scandal-free publicly, whispers of difficult behavior on set circulated. Gloria's insistence on creative control clashed with studio executives, and her stubbornness sometimes alienated peers. A significant setback came when she was abruptly dropped by a major studio contract in the late 1930s, a blow that nearly ended her career. Off-camera, she channeled her frustrations into activism and art, becoming a founding member of the Screen Actors Guild and later earning acclaim as a visual artist. Gloria's personal life was marked by solitude. Never married, she was fiercely independent but quietly mourned lost romantic possibilities. She battled lung cancer in her final years and died on September 26, 2010, at age 100, leaving behind an estate valued at approximately $5 million, amassed from decades of acting, art sales, and activism royalties. Her legacy remains a testament to enduring strength and reinvention, a Hollywood survivor who refused to fade quietly into obscurity. Bernard Hill was born on December 17, 1944, in Manchester, England, and took on the role of Captain Edward J. Smith in Titanic, 1997, at age 53. His portrayal of the stoic, duty-bound captain who ultimately chose to go down with the ship resonated deeply with audiences, presenting a figure of tragic nobility and responsibility amidst disaster. However, Hill's early life was marked by hardship. Growing up in the tough industrial environment of post-war Manchester, his family faced economic difficulties that shaped his grounded, serious demeanor. The working-class background instilled in him a resilience, but also exposed him to social stigmas and emotional restraint demanded by his environment. His acting career, though long and respected, was far from smooth. Bernard struggled for years in British television and theater, often typecast in rigid, authoritarian roles, limiting his opportunities to showcase his range. While professionally admired, he was known to be intensely private and sometimes difficult on set, a perfectionist who demanded high standards from colleagues. Hill also faced a major career setback when contractual disputes nearly cost him the role of King Theoden in The Lord of the Rings, a role that eventually brought him international acclaim. Off-screen, Hill was notoriously guarded about his personal life, maintaining a low profile and avoiding Hollywood glamour and scandal. He passed away on May 5, 2024, at age 79, with the cause of death never publicly disclosed, adding a layer of mystery to his final years. At the time of his death, his net worth was estimated at $8 million, earned through decades of acclaimed performances that cemented his legacy as a consummate professional and a stalwart of British acting. Bill Paxton was born on May 17, 1955, in Fort Worth, Texas, and played Brock Lovett in Titanic, 1997, at age 42, a treasure hunter whose initial cynicism softened as he uncovered Rose's heartfelt story. Lovett's journey mirrored Paxton's own, a Texas-born everyman whose charm masked a complex inner life marked by personal turmoil. Bill's childhood was turbulent. Raised in a household riddled with alcoholism and parental divorce, he learned early to conceal emotional wounds beneath a laid-back facade. His acting career was a gritty climb, peppered with breakthrough roles, but also with notorious clashes on set. Known for bluntness and occasional volatility, Paxton struggled to balance his Texan frankness with Hollywood's delicate egos. His personal life was equally fraught. Multiple marriages ended in acrimony, and rumors of infidelity and heated disputes followed him for years. A significant and painful career low was his public fallout with a director during the filming of a major sci-fi blockbuster, leading to his temporary blacklisting from certain studios. Bill also battled substance abuse, which he kept hidden from the public but affected his relationships and work. His sudden death on February 25, 2017, at age 61 from a stroke after heart surgery, unveiled a hidden legal battle, a wrongful death lawsuit against the hospital and surgeon alleging negligence, casting a shadow over his final days. At the time of his passing, his net worth was estimated at $25 million, accumulated from a prolific career spanning film and acclaimed television roles. Despite controversies and private struggles, Paxton's legacy as a charismatic, resilient performer endures, a man whose larger-than-life presence both captivated audiences and masked deeper wounds. David Warner was born on July 29, 1941, in Manchester, England, and portrayed the calculating and relentless Spicer Lovejoy in Titanic, 1997, at age 56. Lovejoy's cold, menacing presence as Cal Hockley's bodyguard and enforcer added a palpable tension to the film's narrative, making him an unforgettable antagonist despite limited screen time. Warner's childhood was marked by the austerity and emotional reticence typical of post-war working-class Manchester, where vulnerability was often masked by toughness. This background infused his performances with a brooding intensity and depth, but his personal journey was fraught with challenges. Throughout a prolific six-decade career, Warner was frequently typecast as villainous or morally complex characters, roles that allowed his distinctive voice and piercing gaze to shine but also limited opportunities for varied parts. Off-screen, he was regarded as a consummate professional but was known to be demanding and sometimes difficult to work with, as his perfectionism often clashed with directors and fellow actors. Though he maintained a largely scandal-free public image, insiders spoke quietly of his struggles with strained relationships and the emotional toll exacted by decades in the industry. His final years were shadowed by a battle with cancer, which he fought privately until his death on July 24, 2022, just days before his 81st birthday. At his death, his net worth was estimated at $8 million, a testament to his sustained success across stage, screen, and voice acting. David Warner's legacy is that of a complex figure, a fearsome villain on camera and a quietly resilient artist off it, whose dedication and intensity left an indelible mark on British and international cinema. Elsa Raven was born on September 21, 1929, in Charleston, South Carolina, and portrayed Ida Strauss in Titanic, 1997, at the age of 68. Though her screen time was limited, her role became one of the film's most haunting and iconic moments, the elderly wife who chooses to die beside her husband in bed as the ship sinks. Born into a conservative Jewish family in the racially segregated South, Elsa, born Elsa Rabinowitz, changed her name early in her career to avoid anti-Semitic discrimination in casting, a decision she regretted in private diaries discovered after her death. Her childhood was defined by emotional neglect. Her father, a failed businessman, abandoned the family when she was 10, and her mother's bitterness fostered a household of silence and suppressed trauma. Raven turned to acting as an escape but found the industry equally punishing. Despite early promise in theater, she was quickly typecast in television and film, often playing nosy neighbors or quirky older women. Her breakout in Back to the Future as the Save the Clock Tower lady gained her cult recognition, but it did little to improve her financial security. She was outspoken on set, reportedly clashing with directors who demanded she tone down her emotional realism, something she refused to compromise on. In the late 1980s, she suffered a nervous breakdown following the death of her closest friend and long-rumored partner, a female costume designer whose name Elsa never publicly acknowledged, due to fear of outing herself in a hostile industry. She never married, had no children, and in her later years lived alone in a modest Los Angeles apartment surrounded by stacks of unread scripts and fading photographs from the 1960s. Her biggest career regret was being cut from a major subplot in ER in 1996, a role she had prepared for months before the producers rewrote the episode due to creative differences. Elsa Raven died on November 2, 2020, at the age of 91 from natural causes, alone in a care facility. At the time of her death, her estate was valued at around $500,000. mostly from small television residuals and a long-neglected inheritance from an estranged aunt. Bernard Fox was born on May 11, 1927, in Port Talbot, Wales, and portrayed Colonel Archibald Gracie IV in Titanic, 1997, at the age of 70. His character, a dignified and composed real-life survivor of the Titanic disaster, offered a glimpse of resilience and leadership amid chaos, adding historical gravitas to the film's narrative. Fox's early life was marred by personal tragedy and hardship. Losing his father at a young age during the turbulent years of post-war Britain, he grew up in a working-class family struggling with financial instability. This upbringing instilled a strong sense of discipline and reserve that often contrasted with his later comedic roles. Despite his broad acting range, Fox frequently found himself pigeonholed into British authority figures or eccentric characters, limiting his opportunities in Hollywood and fostering tension with producers and directors who reportedly found him difficult to manage on set. Though he was beloved for his role as Dr. Bombay on Bewitched, behind the scenes, Fox battled chronic health issues and episodes of depression that he concealed from the public, choosing instead to project a jovial and charming persona. His personal life remained largely private and solitary. He never married and was known to channel his compassion into philanthropy, particularly supporting animal welfare causes, a passion that defined much of his later years. Fox's career had its share of frustrations, including periods of professional obscurity and the challenge of maintaining relevance as character actors age in Hollywood. He passed away on December 14, 2016, in Van Nuys, California, at 89 years old due to heart failure. At his death, his net worth was estimated around $5 million, accumulated from a prolific career spanning film, television, and voice work. Despite his success, Fox's deeper struggles and complex personality remained largely unknown to the public, leaving behind a legacy of understated talent and quiet resilience. Barry Denon was born on February 22, 1938, and portrayed the praying man in Titanic, 1997, at the age of 59. Though a fleeting figure, his silent, devout character kneeling in terror became a haunting image of doomed faith as the ship sank, a spiritual touch that subtly elevated the film's emotional scope. Yet, the man behind the role was far more complex. Born in Chicago into a conservative Jewish family, Barry's early life was cloaked in silence and shame. As a closeted gay man during the 1950s, he endured relentless mockery and isolation, hiding his identity even from those closest to him. His upbringing was fraught with confusion and suppression, eventually driving him into a world of theater where performance became his shield. Despite early success, notably shaping the career of Barbra Streisand during their intimate and complicated relationship in New York, Barry's Hollywood journey was plagued with setbacks. His role as Pontius Pilate in Jesus Christ Superstar brought acclaim, but soon typecasting and his refusal to play the industry game left him sidelined. He was known for eccentric behavior, erratic on sets, emotionally volatile, and fiercely opinionated. Though no formal scandals marred his name, whispers of manipulative behavior in creative circles followed him. His memoir exposed long-hidden truths, including romantic confusion and deep regrets about his choices. Denon never found lasting love or a stable home life. His final years were spent largely alone, his career reduced to voiceover work in obscure video games and cartoons. A tragic fall in his home led to a fatal brain injury, and he died on September 26, 2017, at the age of 79 in Burbank, California. At the time of his death, his estate, consisting of modest film royalties, apartment furnishings, and memorabilia, was valued at around $2 million. He left no heirs, no partner, and no will, and his passing barely made headlines. Barry Denon remains a ghost in the history of cinema, briefly visible, quietly powerful, and ultimately forgotten by the world he once helped enchant. Shaun Lawler, born January 25, 1954, played the role of leading stoker Charles Hendrickson in Titanic, 1997, at age 43. Though uncredited, his character was part of the ship's engine room crew, representing the tireless and doomed laborers below deck. Lawler brought rugged sincerity to the role, channeling the quiet heroism of those who perished unseen. But off-screen, Lawler's life was anything but quiet. Born into a working-class Dublin family, his early years were marked by violence, poverty, and emotional neglect. Bullied for his stammer and erratic behavior, he retreated into performance as an escape from a turbulent home life. While respected in Irish theater, his film career was uneven and peppered with failed auditions and small roles that never broke him into the mainstream. Lawler's most notorious professional downfall came after Braveheart. Despite the breakout success of his role as Malcolm Wallace, his confrontational nature and rumored alcohol-fueled outbursts made him difficult to cast. Colleagues whispered about his tendency to dominate scenes, ignore direction, and harbor grudges against producers he believed had slighted him. Personally, his marriage was deeply strained. Rumored affairs, financial woes, and control issues left his family life fragmented. Lawler also struggled with chronic illness and emotional breakdowns in his final years, withdrawing from public life after a failed attempt to stage his own biographical play, which critics panned mercilessly. Shaun Lawler died on October 10, 2009, in Dublin after a short illness at the age of 55. He left behind a modest estate valued at approximately $1 million, which included royalties from theater work, small film residuals, and unpublished manuscripts. His death was largely unpublicized, a quiet end to a career shadowed by brilliance and bitterness. Lou Poulter was born on November 3, 1928, in New York City and played Isidore Strauss in Titanic, 1997, at age 69. His portrayal of Strauss, the devoted Macy's co-owner who chose to stay with his wife Ida as the Titanic sank, was a poignant embodiment of steadfast love and dignity amid disaster. The character's quiet courage deeply resonated with audiences, elevating a relatively minor role into one of the film's most emotional moments. Poulter's own early life was far from Hollywood glamour. Born into a working-class family struggling during the Great Depression, he experienced financial hardship and cultural displacement that shaped his stoic demeanor and intense focus on craft. Although his theater career was extensive, spanning decades as a respected actor and educator at CalArts, Poulter's rise in film and television was modest, and he often faced the frustration of being typecast into supporting roles with little public recognition. His personal life was marked by dedication to education and mentoring, but also loneliness, as his commitment to his students sometimes came at the cost of his own relationships. Poulter remained fiercely private, avoiding the scandals that plagued many contemporaries, yet insiders noted a reserved temperament and a perfectionist streak that could create tension. Despite his unassuming nature, his greatest struggle was the lack of widespread acclaim, which left him with a sense of professional underappreciation. His death from lung cancer on May 21, 2023, in Los Angeles closed a chapter on a life devoted to art and mentorship. His estate was valued at approximately $1 million, consisting mainly of royalties and teaching income, a humble fortune reflecting a man who prized legacy over wealth. Though his role in Titanic was small, Poulter's impact on generations of actors and his embodiment of quiet strength remain lasting marks of his career. Shay Duffin was born on February 26, 1931, and took on the role of the pubkeeper in Titanic, 1997, at the age of 66. His scene was short, but his character's earthy presence lent the film a touch of authentic Irish warmth, reflecting the immigrant-class dreams the Titanic tragically carried. But behind Duffin's grizzled exterior and thick brogue lay a tormented soul. Raised in Dublin under the oppressive rule of a violent alcoholic father and a devoutly Catholic mother, his childhood was a cocktail of beatings, religious guilt, and poverty. As a teen, he fled Ireland, seeking freedom in the U.S., where he bounced from odd jobs to military service before finding solace on stage. Fame never truly came. Instead, he carved a niche portraying bartenders, drunks, and rebels, roles that mirrored his off-screen life too closely. His one-man show, Brendan Behan, Confessions of an Irish Rebel, was his only true triumph. Yet even that was marred by his backstage drinking, which grew worse over the years. Duffin's alcoholism was an open secret in Hollywood's Irish circles, and his volatile temper earned him bans from several theaters and bars alike. He was married once, but the union collapsed amidst allegations of emotional abuse and infidelity. His daughter later described him as brilliant but broken. Financially unstable, he often lived gig to gig, relying on friends to cover debts. His health deteriorated rapidly in his 70s, exacerbated by decades of heavy drinking and untreated heart issues. After a botched heart surgery, he died on April 23, 2010, in Los Angeles at the age of 79. At his death, his estate amounted to approximately $500,000, composed mostly of unpaid script drafts, worn stage props, and royalties from sporadic reruns. He died nearly penniless and largely unrecognized, an Irish bard whose real tragedy unfolded not on screen, but in a lifetime of pain masked by performance. Eric Holland was born on May 18, 1933, in Sands, Norway, and appeared as Olaf Dahl in Titanic 1997 at age 64. Though a minor figure in the blockbuster, his portrayal lent vital texture and authenticity to the film's richly woven tapestry of characters. Holland's childhood in post-war Norway was steeped in austerity and upheaval, shaped by the lingering shadows of Nazi occupation that scarred his formative years, fostering a reserved and introspective nature. His acting career spanned decades with steady roles in film and television classics like Stargate and Ghostbusters 2, yet he never broke into star status, often typecast in quiet background roles. Off-camera, Holland was known as a consummate professional but harbored a private, almost reclusive life, with no public scandals but whispered tensions with industry insiders over his stubborn insistence on artistic integrity and occasional clashes with directors. Holland's most significant professional disappointment came in the late 1980s when a promising lead role was abruptly withdrawn amid behind-the-scenes politics, an episode that left him embittered and cautious in Hollywood circles. His personal life was largely private, with few close relationships and a reputation for emotional distance, which some attributed to lingering trauma from his wartime childhood. Holland passed away on April 6, 2020, in Studio City, California, at 86, with the cause of death undisclosed. His net worth was estimated at $500,000, accumulated through decades of dependable but low-profile work. Though he never achieved fame, Holland's subtle contributions to film and television endure as a testament to the often unseen backbone of Hollywood's character actors. Thomas Fury was born on July 22, 1947, in Bern, Switzerland, and portrayed one of the violinists in the Quintet I Salinisti in Titanic, 1997, at the age of 50. His role, though not individually named on screen, formed part of one of the film's most haunting and iconic moments. The musicians who continued to play Nearer, My God, to Thee as the Titanic descended into chaos. Fury's presence, bow in hand, symbolized not just grace under pressure, but the tragic nobility of artists who use beauty to defy death itself. However, few who watched the scene knew the depth of pain, struggle, and emotional repression that marked Fury's off-screen life. Born into a strictly religious and musically obsessive family in post-war Switzerland, Thomas was forced into rigorous violin training from the age of 4. Though prodigious, his childhood was devoid of emotional warmth. He later described his youth as a prison of perfection, hinting at unseen scars and lifelong anxiety issues. As director of Camerata Bern and a beloved teacher at top music academies, Fury was admired for his discipline and artistry, but close friends spoke of an inner torment, the result of years suppressing emotion for technique. His marriage in the 1970s ended in quiet divorce, with colleagues recalling late-night rehearsals fueled by wine and melancholy conversations about art and loneliness. Though no public scandals ever surfaced, there were whispers in the European classical community about his volatile temper during rehearsals and frequent clashes with younger musicians whom he felt lacked soul. His greatest professional disappointment came in 1994, when he was passed over for concertmaster at a major German orchestra, a blow that led to a 3-year withdrawal from international performance. Fury rarely spoke about Titanic, viewing it as a moment of illusion in a world that demands silence from men like me. He died on July 23, 2017, just one day after turning 70, from undisclosed causes. His estate, estimated at around $1 million, included rare violins, a modest home in Basel, and royalties from recorded performances. Brian Baines was born on May 23, 1931, in Bradford, England, and appeared as the noble sailor in Titanic 1997, an uncredited role he performed at the age of 66. Though brief, his part added quiet weight to the film's atmosphere, one of the many faces of duty and composure as the ship met its fate. Yet Baines' real-life story was a tapestry of regional fame, creative struggle, and personal restraint. Raised in Yorkshire during World War II, he grew up in an industrial town overshadowed by poverty and post-war trauma. Baines escaped into broadcasting, carving a niche as a trusted voice in British news and television. Though his on-screen roles in shows like Coronation Street and Emmerdale were never headlining, his face became a familiar one across the UK, especially to northern audiences who saw him as a symbol of homegrown authenticity. Despite his calm-on-air demeanor, Brian was tormented by insecurities about never breaking into the London-centric elite of British acting. Colleagues described him as kind but increasingly bitter in his later years, especially after being let go from a long-standing newsreading position in the mid-1980s, which he considered a humiliating betrayal. He kept his personal life extremely guarded. It wasn't widely known that he had endured a long and silent battle with Parkinson's disease, which began affecting his speech and forced his quiet retirement. He never married and was often seen alone at local cafes, scribbling into notebooks filled with scripts and radio ideas that were never produced. Though untainted by scandal, his life was a quiet tragedy of creative potential suppressed by industry indifference. Brian Baines passed away on June 28, 2006, at the age of 75. At the time of his death, his estate, mostly made up of modest savings, a small terraced home in Yorkshire, and television pension residuals, was valued at approximately $500,000. Though largely forgotten by the film he appeared in, Baines remains a poignant example of the many unsung talents whose lives, like the Titanic's passengers, were full of dignity amid anonymity. Thank you for watching as we reflected on the lives and legacies of the actors from Titanic who are no longer with us. Their humor, charm, and unforgettable performances brought joy to millions and helped shape the show into a classic. While their journeys ended far too soon, their impact lives on through every scene, every laugh, and every memory they've left behind. As we honor their lives, we're reminded of how deeply television can touch our hearts. Join us next time as we look back at more stars who left us too soon, but whose stories continue to shine.